Welcome to 10 Points Under, folks, where you may survive 8 skulls from Jotun, but that means nothing when that lava damage rolls around.
I'm Big A Bullfrog here, and you just heard that wonderful introduction from my co-caster of the week. This is Scaperedude. Hey, Scaperedude, how's it going?
It is going fantabulous. Hello, peoples. It is a pleasure to be here with you today. Honestly, this is something I've been looking forward to for quite some time, to get to team up with my man, Big A. Get to go ahead and spend some quality buddy time together, though we may not actually be together. We may actually be a ways apart, isolated in our rooms, but that's okay.
You know, they don't need to know that. As far as they're concerned, we've been like spending the weekend together, getting ready for this.
Exactly.
Camped out in the mountains, watched all the buddy cop shows.
Every single one.
All right, so for those of you who don't know Scaperedude, he is one of the main players, one of the awesome players from our Utah tournament scene, monthly scene. He lives in Utah, and so do I, and so we see each other a good amount. He's one of the good players from us. He was one of the, actually probably the starting organizer of the Utah monthly scene area, in that he was the one running tournaments when nobody else was. So yeah, really avid Heroscaper, really good player. I've got a pretty not great win-loss record against him, but that's okay. We don't need to talk about that right now, because right now we're talking about other people.
Exactly.
Today, we've got a game between another person from our Utah scene, BodaciousBlood, another person who we've seen a lot, know pretty well. He's over on the left, running an army of 3 squads of Roman legionnaires, me Berksaw, Mogrim, Forgehammer, Raylin, and Arashara Goshiri. Bless me. She's a C3V figure. She's got some shifting sands shenanigans that she does. We'll probably talk about that more later in the game, but I'll use this as a quick reminder to, as always, if you don't know the cards or powers of one of the figures in the game, they are always in the description below, so check them out. And then over on the other side, we've got somebody who I'm not as familiar with. This is a player named Aratrea. I believe I'm saying that correctly. He's running an orc build. He's got 4 squads of Heavy Gruts, Grimnak, Narak, Berksaw, and then Hrognak, who is another orc champion, and he is also from the C3V Custom Awesomeness. And so that's another card for you to check out. He gives like a movement bonus to orcs who start their movement within 2 clear sight spaces of him, type dealio. But yeah, so it's a pretty cool matchup, actually. Roman Legionnaires and Heavy Gruts, that's like a match straight out of classic Heroscape days. And then you've got like a little bit of a twist with Hrognak and Arashara thrown in there.
Yeah, honestly, I think this is going to be quite the interesting matchup. I mean, one of the initial takes just right off the bat, I mean, there is no range here. I mean, you've got me Berks on either side, but I mean, that's 50 points and 50 points. So obviously this is not going to be a particularly heavy range game on either side.
Yeah, agreed. I think that, so Hrognak also does have range because he's an orc archer, but it's like only 5 range and it's only 2 attack, so it's not something you can rely on like you can rely on me Berksaw. So I think that'll probably be one of the more interesting talking points of the game, is the fact that the Roman Legionnaires can at least bond with me Berksaw, and so they can have that bonding ranged hero to take shots, and I think that'll affect how the game rolls a lot more than, you know, the orcs. If they're trying to use Hrognak as a damage dealer, they're not going to see a lot of stuff done there.
Agreed. And, you know, definitely I think it'll be important to watch out for me Berksaw, but I also think it'll affect the way the game plays out a little bit, because, I mean, as you can see, there's a good amount of jungle terrain and bushes and trees on this map. And usually when you're playing against range, I mean, you're going to be trying to stick to those trees, give yourself a little bit of cover while moving in. But without it being so heavily range-based, honestly, the jungle trees might not play quite as large of a factor in this game.
Yeah, that's true. The melee matchup on this map will be really interesting to see how that develops. But we'll go ahead, we'll get the game Arigidi rolling. But yeah, on that same note, yeah, melee matchups are always pretty interesting, and I think that'll be pretty fun as well. That's where, like, so the fact that the Romans can bond with me Berksaw makes me kind of want to give a slight edge to BodaciousBlood here. But when it comes to melee squads, like bonding melee squads versus bonding melee squads, Heavy Gruts are way better than Romans already. And Grimnak, with his ability to just chomp through the Romans, is huge.
Oh yeah, agreed. I mean, obviously both of these armies are built to deliver a pretty powerful punch. I mean, you've got Mogrim and me Berksaw on the Roman side. But I think generally the Orc army is going to have to try to play a little bit more of an offensive move here. While the Romans, I mean, they've got Raylin, They've got all the Romans. They can set up a pretty solid pod on the map, and honestly, just try to take some of the heat from the orcs. And I think one of the key factors will be how well Grimnak can be played. I mean, if Grimnak can force his way inside to some of the Romans, areas, he could potentially pull off a chomp on a key figure such as Raylan, Mogrim, Arashara. And so I think you've just got a few different options on what happens on either side.
Yeah, I think definitely Miberxa and Grimnak are kind of the key figures here. Grimnak doesn't care about how much defense your Romans have, even if they've got Raylan, because he can just jump right through them. But Miberxa, can just snipe guys, and when played well, especially on this map where it's a little bit more rocky, it'll be interesting to see how things develop out. I do like this map a lot. This is called If You Can't Take the Heat from Dignan. Links are always in the description below. But it's a really interesting map for a melee matchup, I think, because you usually think about range on this map where there's a lot of lava where the range wants to be, and so there's kind of that balance. But when it's melee versus melee, it's like, okay, how do I develop across this board now? How am I going to be able to, start getting engagements and getting attacks? And where do I want that to happen?
See, exactly. I mean, you've got the glyphs on the far side. You've got Kilda down there. You've got Valda with the move +2 up top. And so, I mean, that could potentially be more of a draw without range on the map. But it's very much a question of where is some of the central conflict going down. Mm-hmm. You've got Bodacious. He's already setting up a pretty strong pod down there in the swamp water, close to the start zone, to at least give him a good foothold. But then on the flip side, I mean, there's some pretty good development all across. I mean, you've got orcs going down the bottom flank, the top flank, along with Grimnak going up along the top, it looks like.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Really quick, I do want to note the Shifting Sands ability of Arashara that we just saw there. So Arashara's Shifting Sands is basically she gets to choose like 2 figures within 4 spaces of herself. She can use herself as one of those figures. Then she gets to roll the d20, and I believe on an 11 or higher, I believe it's just a straight 50% chance. Oh, 10 or higher, so I believe that's a 55% chance. She can just switch those figures. So right there, he used it to move up Arashara and then switch her with a Roman that was farther behind in order to get like more development with Romans. Basically lets him kind of move 5 Romans in a turn instead of the usual 4. So it's a pretty neat ability.
Gives him a little bit of flexibility there, at least in the initial start, with how he's using it.
And then you can also use it with like shenanigans later. It's really good if you can like deal somebody's Raylan, for example. Like he could switch a Roman with an enemy Raylan in a different matchup. He could do that and pull over the Raylan and then get a lot of attacks on her or something like that. There's a lot of shenanigans that can be done there, which is pretty fun. And BodaciousSBlood is really good at playing into that power of Arashara. She's one of his favorite figures.
Yeah, I've watched him play her before in an online match, and he does a pretty good job, keeping her alive and really using those abilities. That's one of the things to remember with her, though, is, 200 points. 5 life, 3 defense. Mm-hmm. So she's fragile. I mean, she can pull off some really cool and useful things, I think, at all stages of the game. But if you're not careful with her, things can go south pretty quickly, potentially.
Yeah, for sure.
She can get out there.
Yeah, definitely agreed there. I do think this development from Aratrea is a little bit interesting as he, swings off to the north. I mean, I think that is the easier way to develop such a squad-heavy army. I am a little concerned about Narek sitting right there in the open, though.
I know, he's a pretty key figure, I think, especially for this build with the Heavy Gruts, and he's a little bit exposed there. He is getting pretty good board control, pretty good board coverage, and I think especially if he can get control of that move glyph, I think that'll just open up a lot of potentials for his army, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true for sure. My main worry is that, yep, right there, Miberxa. We've got Miberxa probably coming up to take shots at Narek. And I'm like, if he just twisted Narek's positioning a little bit, he could have had Narek adjacent to the jungle in order to get him at least an extra defense die against a ranged attack. Be less likely to be sniped by Miberxa. But looks like Bodacious might be going for a Heavy Grut anyway.
He's picking off the Heavy Grut next to the bush.
Yeah. He might be. I wonder if he's trying to get a paralyzing stare on the Heavy Grut. And if the stare works, shoot the Grut. If it doesn't work, maybe shoot Narek. Maybe, possibly, I don't know. Okay, so it didn't work. Yeah, so he's shooting Narek.
Okay, yep, okay, I can see that then.
And that's a wound. Yeah, Narek only has 3 life, so he's someone you definitely need to be a bit conservative with, I feel like.
Now, Bodacious did take a little bit of a risk because that's order marker 3, and he's dropping Miberxa down on that lava.
Oh, that is true.
But I think definitely pull off a shot like that on Nirak. I think that's a worthwhile risk. It's a good trade-off.
Yeah, because if you can get, Nirak's just got that great defense bonus for all of the orcs. If you can get rid of that, that's going to be a big help for your Romans when fighting off them orky poos.
This is true.
Interesting spot for him to try to pot up in, though, too, I feel like. This this map doesn't really lend itself to a melee pod.
No, it really doesn't. I mean, most other places, unless you wanted to go right above his start zone on that 7 hex of 2s, there's not a lot of great spots for it. Plus, at least where he's at, any orcs that are going to come at him are pretty much either going to have to take the level below his figures or else be on lava.
Yeah. And so it's a interesting trade-off there. And I think a lot of it will come down to the timing that Aratrea has when he makes his attack. Because if he's able to, at the beginning of a round, get in there with a bunch of orcs, take the high ground with lava, he doesn't have to worry about that for a few turns. And he could probably do the damage that he needs to do before lava damage comes back. And if he gets burned by lava damage, he's probably done more damage during that round anyway. But yeah, and then there's also the Grimnak factor and trying to consider how do I get Grimnak in there, because against all of those 6 defense Romans, you definitely want to be chomping away with Grimnak. Oh
yeah, I think Grimnak is honestly really a key element of Aratrea's army, but I think that's pretty obvious with an orc build. Grimnak is
he's pretty good, Oh, and now he's rolling back near.
Okay.
Nice.
So interesting. I wonder if he wasn't expecting Miberxa to pull off that offensive move, but he's got the jungle bush there. He's obviously got the screen in front of him, so Nirak is gonna have a lot better cover there.
Yeah, that's a much better spot for him to be during this early game. And he also takes the move glyph with the Heavy Gruts, so you'll be able to get some speedy development now.
Yeah, I think that's going to be key for him moving out, because that pod, Bodacious's pod, is developing so well that I think if he doesn't start getting into position, at least on the sooner side, it's going to be really hard to break that.
Yeah, and that whole time, if Miberxa's taking pot shots at your Heavy Gruts, or even still at Nirak, because I think, let's see. Oh no, he would have to maneuver a little bit to hit Nirak. Still possible though. But yeah, you definitely don't want to be losing figures. But there's this is where that balance of the slow roll versus trying to get that aggression in. Because Bodacious at this point has basically already set up. He's pretty much where he wants to be. With a little bit more time, he could probably get a better spot. But while he was making that transition, he'd still be vulnerable to attack. So yeah, and also I think one thing to notice with the Heavy Grut army is that he's got an extra squad of Heavy Gruts on top. So he's got 3 squads of Heavy Gruts where Bodacious only has... Wait, sorry, I think I said that wrong. 4 squads of Heavy Gruts where Bodacious only has 3 squads of Romans. And Romans like to capitalize a lot more on being near to each other than the Heavy Gruts do, at least in this matchup, I feel like. And so I think since Aratrea has the numbers, he can afford to slow roll a bit more, because if he loses a few figures while doing that, he still has figures to, fall back on, and if that ends up getting him the better board position and the better way to attack anyway, then he's in a happy spot.
Oh yeah, definitely. With your orcs, it's something that you just kind of have to accept that you're going to take some hits most likely as you're moving in. But I think as long as you can play it smart still, I think a few hits, at least from Miberxa potentially while moving in, won't ruin his game and could set him up for later on.
Yeah, and I think especially with Miberxa, so this is actually something where I've seen a lot of players get antsy, and they're like, okay, I don't want to sit back while Miberxa is taking shots at me, so I need to get in there, I need to make a risk, I need to get in there and kill Raylan, or kill Miberxa, or, do all this stuff, and they get worried because, Miberxa is taking free attacks at them. But I think, yeah, exactly like you just said, it's important to remember that Miberxa is only getting 1 attack per turn, and unless Bodacious moves his Romans and gets into a bad position, you're not going to be taking more attacks than that. And if he does move his Romans and get into a bad position, then you've got the advantage anyway, even if you take some early losses. And so I think like that long game picture is something that's important to have, especially when you're doing like this kind of melee versus melee where one side has range that it can utilize, or even just melee versus range in general.
Now, what just happened, I think, is kind of important. So he had me Burks up on the lava, rolled the 0 for that first round, which, how fragile me Burksaw is, I think that plays a pretty key factor, because if me Burksaw starts getting pretty toasted up on that height, it's going to force Bodacious to eventually bring him down, which would change things around. But since he didn't take a wound to that first round up there, I think that allows Bodacious just to kind of keep him there and get off more of those pot shots.
Yeah, that's very true, because that definitely means that Bodacious doesn't have to worry about losing me Burksaw to a random attack. But he doesn't have to worry as much. There's always the possibility that there's 3 skulls against him, and he blanks on 5 defense if he's in Raylan's aura. So that's always a possibility, but yeah, he definitely doesn't have to worry as much, and he can play a bit more freely with me Burksaw there. Interesting that he's trying to back up and take a shot up at the Heavy Grut, though.
Agreed. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder what his reasoning is there, if he's more afraid about that Grut getting in. Because remember, you've still got that Grut up on the move glyph. I mean, that guy's keeping Aratrea's army super mobile.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when he first moved into that position, because I could see the attack on the glyph holder. Yeah, that's always sad when you hit the paralyzing stare and then blank the attack roll, especially when the target was going to have 3 plus height plus jungle plus Nerek, so 6 defense.
That is a pretty hefty Grut.
Yeah, and it looks like Bodacious is going to start crawling forward a little bit.
I mean, he's got the rail-in coverage all the way out to that Grut, so...
That's true. I wonder...
You got to start killing at some point.
Yeah.
However, that is kind of spreading out the movements along that stretch of land in the middle.
Right. Yeah, I think right now he needs to focus more on developing still, just because... I mean, yeah, there does come a point where you'll want to maybe start crawling out to get more attacks. But Romans especially, if you kind of string them out like that, you're just asking to get beat up on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you look over near Nerak, I mean, you've got 3 or 4 Gruts just kind of chilling there down in the swamp water. Mm-hmm. And right next to that central double hex lava piece, I mean, you've got those 2 swamp hexes on level 0. I mean, and you could easily set some Gruts down there, or even up on that height 4, and just shred Romans that go out onto that double hex lava in the central.
Yeah.
In the central map. Even with Raylan covering them.
Yeah, for sure. And then also gets him closer to a 7-move Grimneck.
Very true. Very true.
Who I'm hoping we'll get to see come into play soon here. I'm guessing Grimneck starts becoming more relevant in the next few turns. He might take a turn to remove Hrognak, just get his movement bonus a little bit closer to the forefront, but...
Well, I think in some aspects, I mean, obviously Hrognak's move bonus is always nice to have, but with control of that move glyph, I don't think it's quite as relevant or necessary to the army.
Yeah, that's for sure. Because he's only giving them +1 move, and they have to start within 2 spaces of him, so it's it's a bonus. It's not the most powerful bonus, but it's a bonus. It is nice when you've got like 7 or 8 move disengage Heavy Gruts though. But yeah, Grimneck coming right in there.
There we go.
Yeah, that's not a bad spot. I mean, and it's also turn 1. That is, I mean, he's always going to be vulnerable to me Burksaw taking pot shots at Grimneck. That's just how it's going to be until he's able to kill me Burksaw. But at least there he's got the Nerek defense, so he'll be rolling 5 dice. And he's too big for me Burksaw to stare.
Mm-hmm. One thing I will say for Aratrea, he has done, at least from some of my initial worries in the beginning, he's done a decent job developing Gruts across the board. Mm-hmm. He's got pretty good coverage, pretty much on all aspects, all different areas of the board.
Yeah, he's definitely been able to be patient and like really focus on that development rather than rushing in, which I think is really, really good on this map. Just, I mean, like, we've been talking about it all game, but there's just so much on this map that's making you capitalize on development, especially melee versus melee.
Oh, yeah.
So now we've got BodaciousBlood, who gets to take it a bit more easier. Maybe. Oh, well, he looks like he's going for an Arashara play. Interesting. I wonder what he's trying to. Oh, so he's trying to. Oh, he's gonna switch that Heavy Grut with the Roman. Let's see if that, and it works. So that puts the Heavy Grut down on low ground surrounded by Romans, and that Roman is now in a position where it could take height and attack another Heavy Grut, or retreat back in.
Very true, and more than that, I think that Roman right there is going to get munched, but it's going to do a little bit to slow down the charge of Hrognak.
Mm-hmm.
Either force him to take a leave engage, or stop him right there and force him to chomp the Roman before he gets any closer. At which point, it'll give the Romans a decent chance to possibly develop on height.
Yeah, and so that could be really, really good. Like, he's getting a little bit of value now. The only worry that I have with this play, with just throwing away a Roman, I mean, your Romans are going to die to Hrognak anyway, but it's especially sad. So, like, it hurts more when you're already behind on numbers. So that's, because usually you've got so many Romans, because they're only 50 points per squad. So usually you've got so many of them that you don't have to worry about losing a couple. But against an army with Hrognak in it, and also where you're already outnumbered by Heavy Gruts, it does feel kind of bad to be throwing away a Roman. But, like I said, they're going to get munched anyway. Although, so I wonder if Aratrea takes that munch, or if he moves over. Because one thing I've been looking at is if he goes on to the level 1 lava to his left and munches the Roman that's right by Raylan, he could then swing in a Heavy Grut to get an attack down of 5 on Raylan. Heck, he could get...
That would be painful.
Yeah, he could get 2 Gruts in there, I think, with that.
With the move glyph.
Yeah, because he could... Let's see. So you can move Hrognak there, chump that Roman, and then 1, 2, 3... 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, he could get both of those heavies in there. Get an attack of 5 and an attack of 4 down on Raylan. And that would open him up to a little bit of counterattack from the Romans, but I think it'd be a strong enough position.
Well, it'd be a strong enough position that Bodacious would be forced to react to that attack, which would then allow Aratrea to then move in more Grut forces, and he'd do a pretty good job penetrating the pod.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can take out Raylan with a couple of good attacks, or even a couple turns of attacks, then that's going to help your matchup a lot more. I mean, like I said, Hrognak already doesn't care if you're rolling defense, but if you're also not rolling defense, then your heavies can also start taking swings, and that just kind of landslides it into Heavy Grut's favor.
Definitely.
But we'll see if he does that. I can see a reasoning for wanting to go a little bit more slowly just to get more Heavy Gruts closer to the action for when you do that move. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see which choice Aratrea makes there, and he's really, really thinking about it too.
I know, honestly. Well, I think it's a huge game decision. I mean, depending on what happens with Hrognak, I think can really determine the game. And if you make a bad move, and if Hrognak just goes down at a time when he's not supposed to, I think it could just kind of cripple the game for Aratrea. So I think it's a pretty big move that he needs to decide what course of action he wants to follow right now.
Yeah, because... Well, yeah, that's a good point, too. How much counterattack is Hrognak opening himself up to if he does that? Because, his front would be protected because he'd have Heavy Gruts there. But Arashara could come around this side and swing down on him for 5 attack. Or, no, wait, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... Nope, never mind. She doesn't quite have enough move for that. But you could be shot by Burksa. The nice thing is you would still be in Narax Aura, so you'd still have 5 defense. So, yeah, there's a lot of give and take. Looks like he's going to go for the safer chomp.
He's going for the Roman. Yeah, definitely not as aggressive of a move, I feel like, but it'll give him a better chance to develop the Gruts further.
Yeah, that is true. I think it's probably the safer play with the long game in mind, because he'll still be able... I think he'll probably still have opportunities in the future to move up heavies, to basically do the same thing. Champa, Roman, maybe a couple of Romans, start getting attacks down on Raylan. Oh, and he still takes 1 attack down on Raylan. So, yeah, there you go. It's the best of both worlds.
There we go.
Yeah, no, actually, I definitely prefer that one, because now those Romans are also engaged, which helps protect Hrognak. Yeah, no, that's really good. move there.
I agree. Yeah, I didn't even notice that spot next to Raylan for that Grut, so I definitely feel like, like you, I think that was the best move.
Looks like he's engaging with a couple more as well. I think I personally would only engage with the one, get the attack down on Raylan, and then just develop more Gruts to get them in positions. Like, especially where, like, once that heavy adjacent to Raylan is killed, where you can move another one to that spot and just kind of, like, keep reinforcing that position. But, interesting. Also swinging around, probably trying to pose more of a threat to me Berksaw there.
It'll put pressure on me Berksaw, and also, just in case the Glyph Orc goes down, he'll have a second there.
That's true.
Swing back and pick it up if he needs to.
Yeah, that's why, I feel like I talk about this a lot with a lot of newer players, especially when they start playing Heroscape. I think this game is doing a really good job of showing how important development is and the options that it gives you, because both players really have options to go offensive or defensive with the development that they've been able to do, and just keeping that map control in mind is really, really big, and helps you a lot especially if you're a little bit newer to Heroscape as a whole. Unfortunately, though, both of those attacks failing.
I know, rough stuff.
Well, I guess, unfortunately, depending on who's...
right, I know, seriously.
Nothing against you, BodaciousBlood. I feel like I'm just always on the side of whoever's attacking at the time. Or later in the game, I'm always on the side of whoever's losing.
Look at this solid matching defense.
I know. This is going to be the eternal game where no attacks ever go through.
Exactly, because you know what's going to determine this game? Lava damage.
You know it. And we've got a lot of lava.
We're about to watch Hrognak get toasted, 3 Romans, an Orc, Arashara, and me Berksaw. All of them.
Yep.
Burnt.
This is going to be the crispiest 10 points under ever.
You know it.
I actually kind of want that to happen. I think that'd be awesome.
I know, since I'm not playing this match, I can want things like that to happen.
Yeah, right? It's a nice perspective when you've got no stakes in the game.
Exactly.
So, okay. Looks like Bodacious is going to try to move off of Hot Lava with one of his Romans. Which, this is turn 3? Okay, so I guess that kind of makes sense. And the Roman does still have extra defense from Raylan? But I still don't, I think I'd rather take the 50-50
honestly,
lava.
I feel like the Roman has a higher chance of dying there than from the 50% lava damage. You've got Gruts coming up the side. That Grut has height on that Roman. And so, obviously he still has Raylan, but...
Yeah, I think... I definitely agree. If he'd stayed where he was, if he stayed next to Romans... he would have 6 defense against an attack of 3 from the Heavy Grat. Whereas going down, that's an attack of 4 against a defense of 4. Or, heck, that Heavy Grat could even just straight up disengage and go attack Raylan still and be off of the lava. Yeah, I don't really love that. I think... lava's always scary because it's like, oh, that's 50% chance that I take a wound. But it's also a 50% chance that you don't. So, I don't know. I maybe am a little bit more optimistic about lava sometimes than I need to be, but...
All right, so there's that aggressive power move we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
The one trick with him doing it now, though, is he has a little bit less Orc coverage than he did before.
Yeah, that's why I think it's kind of... I think I probably would have just sat back with Hrognak because less Orc cover, but... also it's the end of the round, which is the other thing that I don't love about it, because... if BodaciousBlood wins initiative right there, then he's going to be able to put some good hits on Hrognak, probably. So I'd always wait for the beginning of a round to make a push, I feel like.
Very true. However, on the flip side... he moves the Orc in. I was going to say, on the flip side, if he had 1 initiative, he could have potentially moved Hrognak in. But he's going for the double Grut, bringing the Thunder down on Raylan, most likely.
Yeah.
So, we'll see how it goes. Interesting time to start the push, but if it goes well, it may pay off big time in the end.
Yeah, I think there's definitely... if Aratrea wins initiative, then this is huge for him, and this is potentially just game winning because of the momentum that would give him. But if he doesn't win initiative, then like it definitely backfires. Okay, so 2 wins on Raylan.
Yep, 2
so
hits.
Yeah, that's why I'm just always hesitant about making a push at the end of a round. If you need that swing to win, then like it's good. But I don't think Aratrea needs that swing right now. That said, that is 4 wounds on Raylan. So
yeah, I know. Double blanks on defense.
Yeah.
That hurts.
So that is
That
looking
hurts.
pretty good for Aratrea there. And then another 3 skulls. Oh man, that's 0 out of 10 defense dice. Yeah,
Brutal.
so that's a good round to have, or a good turn to have at the end of the round. And then if he wins initiative on top of that, yeah, like I said, I think that could be game winning.
Oh, definitely. And I think especially if Bodacious takes some lava damage right here, that could be brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Grimnak gets hit.
Burn him up! I mean, I kind of don't want to burn him up now because it's a little bit less funny after that turn for Bodacious. But
yeah.
Also at the same time, I do want to see him burn up. Alright, so but he just took 1 wound on Arashara, so that's nice.
Yeah, that's not terrible. I think this is kind of what we were talking about in the beginning, where we're watching the Orc army definitely play the much more offensive play. And obviously we see the Romans and Raylan playing more defensive. However, unfortunately for Bodacious, those defense dice are just not coming for him when he needs them.
Oh, interesting. And they just tied on that initiative because Bodacious has Mogrim, which gives him a +3. So gets a second shot. Okay, but Aratrea pulls it off. So yeah, this'll hurt for Bodacious.
I think you can safely assume from this point out that Raylan is going to be struggling. But, I mean, he's still got some hero firepower. He's got Arashara and Mogrim back there.
That's true.
They can pack a punch.
Yeah, Mogrim, especially if... I mean, he does have a couple of weaknesses in the Orc army with Grimnak being able to chomp and Burksa being able to negate Tough with Paralyzing Stare. But if it comes down to, like, say, Mogrim versus Heavy Gruts, then Mogrim can... like pull off a lot of stuff with his tough 6 life. It can be quite the matchup there.
Yeah, if he consistently pulls off some kills combined with that commander strike, we'll see what it comes down to. I think a lot of it just depends on how long some of these Romans can hold on.
Yeah, that's probably a really big part. And Raylan being as weak as she is, it might not be super long, but looks like Aratrea is trying to decide and rolling for the Orc on the glyph. Looks like he's trying to decide where to put Narek. Looks like he's trying to reposition Narek a little bit. Which, I wonder if... would you just put Narek on level 4? On the lava? That gives him good coverage, and I don't think you're too worried about him being hit at this point where the Orcs are getting more engaged.
Alright, kind of going for the low ground right there.
I don't love that. I think I would have gone for the high ground. I mean, it's about the same coverage either way. I feel like the high ground is maybe ironically a little bit safer because you've got height. You're already not really worried about being attacked. I don't know.
I feel that it's an okay move because, first off, you don't have to worry about moving Narek around in the future because of lava damage.
Mm-hmm.
And he's putting enough offensive pressure on Bodacious, both with the Gruts on that 7 hex, as well as down by Raylan, that Bodacious is going to be pretty well tied up trying to deal with those guys. I feel like Nirak, even though he's on the lower ground, he's in a pretty protected, sheltered spot right there, especially with the bush in front of him.
That's true. He does have that extra defense there.
But then again, there's always the advantage and benefit of being in that strong height position.
Right. Yeah, it goes both ways. And he gets a kill on Raylan. Now he's just cleaning up Romans, really. Yeah. I think great couple of turns for Aratrea. Really, I think the only thing that might not go his way is that he is a little bit strung out with his Orcs. So it is possible for BodaciousBlood to be able to come back, clean up the forward Orcs, and, just like push Aratrea off of him and be like, hey, give me some room kind of thing. But yeah, so I think that kind of is Bodacious's next goal, is surviving all of these monster attacks.
With these attack rolls, I mean, he is doing a pretty good job mopping the floor with these Romans.
Yeah.
And at least with that group of 3 Romans down in the swamp water and up on the 7 hex, I mean, they're decently well strung out and surrounded by Orcs. And in that situation, and without Raylan, they probably won't last too long.
Yeah. Okay, yikes. So I was trying to make it look a little bit more optimistic for Bodacious, but that turn did not make it more optimistic for him at all. So that's, a squad and a half of Romans left now. And some beefy heroes, but that's a lot of legwork for the heroes when you're getting swarmed by orcs.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously the heroes on Aratrea side aren't the strongest with Nirak and Hrognak and Miberxa, but that's 4 heroes. I mean, that's a lot of work to chop through.
Right,
especially when Grimnak only has 1 hit on him, and he has the capability of chomping both Mogrim and Arashara.
Yeah, especially when it comes down to endgame, and where Grimnak has so few wounds. Chomping heroes is one of those things that when I'm playing against Grimnak, I'm always like, he can't chomp a hero, and then he does, and then I cry.
Yeah. Yep.
So I've learned to be very, very wary of that.
All right, we're bringing Mogrim into play.
Here we go. These are the kind of 6 attacks per turn. That's what he needs now.
I know. Let's watch some orcs get pounded. Kind of.
Soon.
Maybe.
Coming soon to a...
It's coming. It's coming. I feel it. I feel it in the swamp water.
There we go. There's a hit. So that's 1 orc gone. If he's able to kill... if he can kill these next 3 orcs... then he's still got Grimnak on top of him, so...
Yeah. It's
Grimnak being right there is so sad for Bodacious's position right now. But, I mean, I believe in him. Or maybe I shouldn't believe in him. I don't know, it's always kind of hard. Sometimes I believe in people and they do well, and sometimes I believe in them and they don't do well. So, it's always hard to tell which way to swing the juju.
You know, I'm just waiting for that Miberxa to get that stare on Grimnak, roll 4 skulls, Grimnak blanks it, and the game swings.
Yeah, you know.
All in 1 Miberxa shot. Those 2 Gruts down on that level 1 swamp next to Grimnak, they're doing a pretty good job of, those Romans can't really rush at them because they have such a strong position, and especially with that lava just above them, I mean, Grimnak is in a very safe yet threatening position.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. Even if the Romans, even if Bodacious went for the swing and went below those 2 orcs and attacked up, even if he got those kills, that just opens up the room for Grimnak to come in.
Oh yeah,
and
Grimnak moves 1 space in, chomps one of them, and then attacks the other one with 3 attack.
Yeah, so it's like, yay, I killed the little guys. So now I've just got this big guy to worry about who auto-kills my squads. It's great. It's great. Oh, okay, but he's bringing back the offense. There we go.
Romans. All right.
This is a game of skulls.
No kidding. I wish I could roll like that.
No, right? Must be nice. Must be nice. Obviously, both of these players just need to be playing... Well, especially Bodacious just needs to be playing Viennock Vipers.
This is true. Yeah, Bodacious has done a pretty good job, actually. I'm impressed with how effectively he was able to clear out some of those orcs.
Yeah. And I think his positioning, while he's still being pressured pretty hard, but he's been able to get some pretty good positioning where he's at least in a mildly happy spot. I mean, it's always going to be tough with a 7-move Grimnak. It's always going to be tough with a 7-move Grimnak. So yeah, Grimnak's going to chomp that middle Roman, get it out of the way, make an attack against a 2 defense Roman, bring in an orc to attack down. Yeah.
Nope.
I've seen better positions.
Same. Yeah, and honestly, it's interesting because at least in the beginning of the game, I felt like Bodacious had a pretty good pod control. Like, he had a very, at least on this map, for as well as you can set up, he was pretty well set up. Mm-hmm. But Aratrea just pulled off that kind of the gutsy power move, and it paid off big time.
Yeah, especially with that initiative swing.
Oh, with the initiative swing and everything, he just kind of shattered the middle of the pod.
Mm-hmm. And now he's just kind of like doing what he wants. Yeah, it makes me wonder if there wasn't a better place for Bodacious to set up. Just because like it was a strong central area where he wasn't on lava. But like once it did get shattered, I feel like it kind of backfired a bit where the orcs have been able to get high ground a lot. But at the same time, you know, you're looking at this map and it's like, where else am I going to set up? I think the only other option really is that 7 hex of level 2 height right next to the start zone.
Yeah, right next to the start zone.
Which maybe you could do that and then kind of push off Like if you're Bodacious Blood, maybe you do that and then kind of slowly push out to the north, take control of the glyph, and I don't know. Lots of things where, like, I feel like there have been a lot of decision points in this game where, like, it's big decisions and you're trying to decide, or, well, it's one of those things where you're like, I would love to play this game again, make the other decision, and see how it plays out from there.
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like, at least in perspective of Aratrea, I feel like a couple of his major decision points were when to push with Grimnak and where. And he took the more gutsy move eventually, and it paid off for him. But I feel like at least with initial starting, he didn't have as much option with where to drive. I mean, originally he was kind of moving some guys across the top of the map by the move glyph, but after he got some pressure from Berksaw with Nirak, he kind of backed off there. But for the most part, you know, he just has to move. He just has to control the map, and he has to move out.
Yeah, it's all been about that map control for Aratrea, and I really, really like seeing that, because I think it's really cool when people are able to just control the map. And, like, even now when he's getting strung out a little bit more, he still has presence everywhere. Like, he only had one attack from a Heavy Grut that turn, but he still got Heavy Gruts moving into relevant positions, getting them ready to reinforce, and even if he got pushed back completely from the Romans, then he still has a nice little group that he can work with to be able to take on the rest of what Bodacious has left. 2 out of 23 for Bodacious. That's some pretty sad defense.
I know, it is unfortunate. I would agree. I mean, aside from his initial decision to pod where he did, I mean, I think that can be questioned as to whether that was a correct move or somewhere else. I feel it wasn't an incorrect move. I mean, I feel like he hasn't made any major strategic errors. At one point, he was considering moving some Romans out onto that central level 1 double hex lava. And I felt like that may have been a mistake because it would have left him vulnerable. But he really hasn't made any major strategic errors, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it has just been Aratrea being able to play the map a bit better, pushing for that swing that's really put him into this good position. And also I think, so if we're looking at like big picture strategy, so this is a reverse draft format where you have a chance to bid down the stronger army. And looking at the two armies, I think I always consider the orcs to be stronger, but I believe it was Bodacious who bid to play his own army full strength, and so they ended up just playing both of the armies full strength, which, I mean, I think Bodacious's army was just weaker against this. There's, like, Grimnak especially is just way too good against Romans with Raylan, and so I would have tried to get the orc army to be a bit weaker, like try to take down at least a squad of orcs to try to even things out.
Yeah, I definitely think, that definitely could come into play. But I also feel that, even if Aratrea had -1 squad of orcs, I mean, he's got 3 orcs still just sitting in his start zone.
Right.
And if that would have taken anything out of Bodacious's army, I think it would have crippled even faster. Now, I definitely agree that I feel like, it would have been good for him to have weakened the orc army in any way he could have. But I think it's just a tough matchup, at least on this map.
Yeah. So that's why I think, that's why I said, at least a squad of orcs, if not, maybe a squad and half of orcs, maybe take out Hrognak. I mean, if you're feeling really gutsy, try to drop Grimnak, but then Aratrea just lets you play without Grimnak, because without Grimnak, the matchup kind of goes the other way. Grimnak alone just kind of single-handedly changes the matchup against Romans a lot. But, yeah, trumps another Roman. Bodacious now has less than a squad of Romans remaining.
And I think the thing that hurts a lot is the fact that Grimnak still only has that 1 hit from the lava. Bodacious has not been able to put much on him.
Yeah, agreed. That's been Aratrea's, he's lost, let's see, how many orcs has he lost at this point? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he's lost almost 2 squads of orcs. And then just the 1 wound on Grimnak, and then 1 wound on Nirak. So, yeah, it's just such solid, toughness, survivability, whatever you want to call it, on Aratrea's part, where he's been able to just keep his figures in the game. I mean, he's lost a lot of orcs, almost as many orcs as Bodacious has lost Romans, But since he has extra squad of orcs, he's just in that much better of a position.
Definitely. And I think, always at the end of the day, you can just attribute it to luck and the way the dice swing in a sense. But also, I think part of the reason why Aratrea's survivability has been so good is he's done such an effective job, at least since beginning the assault. He's done such a good job of just clearing out the people that could hit him.
Mm-hmm.
The Romans that were in a position that could cause him damage, well, they can't cause you damage if they're dead. And he's just done a great job clearing out those threats.
Can't kill me if I kill you first.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely agreed. He's also been using the Heavy Gruts really well to just kind of screen with Hrognak, and has been denying Bodacious even the chance to get next to Hrognak to make an attack.
This is interesting because he's got such good coverage that if you notice, he even was moving up an orc from the back there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's already got orcs in relevant positions. He just needs to move the couple that he needs to attack. The ones in the middle, he doesn't need to move because they're already in a good position, and he doesn't need to move them into a spot where the initiative switch will hurt him. But yeah, puts a wound on me Berksaw there.
Yeah, Bodacious struggling with some defense here.
Yeah.
And I think that wound is interesting because just the fact that Mi Berksa has a hit on him makes him much more fragile to stay up on the lava. I mean, because if something goes wrong at the end of the round and he gets burnt, well then that's a pretty squishy target for an orc to take out.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, there's just a lot of ways that this can become even worse for Bodacious at this point. Man, 2 out of 28 shields rolled.
Yeah.
That's nuts. That's like, I mean, that's one of those things where, like, it's definitely, there's always that luck element to Heroscape. I do think even with a little bit better defense, he'd still be in about the same position because Aratrea has been putting himself in a position where his attacks should be succeeding and, like, he should be killing Romans consistently. But, yeah, Aratrea's had great strategy. Also, that luck factor for Bodacious just, like, makes it even worse for him.
Oh, the luck factor has just been, horrendous. It's been sealing the deal. I think the deal was already going to go through,
mm-hmm.
But like you're saying, I think it just is that painful icing on the painful cake.
Yeah, I mean, Bodacious at this point just looking for that swing that he needs to win by attacking Hrognak, just hoping to get that hit that he really needs to be able to get Hrognak out of there. I mean, I think at this point you kind of just throw all your figures in there. Hope to get some kills, hope to win the initiative, and then kill some more figures. Yeah, I think at this point you need to play risky and like everything is going to work out for you, as Doc says, because if it doesn't, you're going to lose anyway.
Yeah, the game is already headed that direction, and so logical, safe strategy of playing a safe game just is not really an option for Bodacious. I mean, he's got to bank on crazy luck swinging back his way.
Yeah.
Play the risky game.
Yep. And unfortunately, Aratrea does know how to roll shields.
Yeah. Now, in reference to that, I think you have to remember that those Romans are attacking up on the orcs on height.
Yeah, and they also have Nerek right next door too.
They also have Nerek right next door. But I mean, honestly, Aratrea has kind of forced Bodacious's hand. Like,
yeah,
he kind of has to.
Yeah,
it's a sucky position to be in, but it's kind of his only position to be in.
Yep. Yeah, totally agreed there. I mean, like, Aratrea has just done a really, really good job of just routing that whole army. Bodacious is killing himself right now on the lava. That's a wound on me Berksaw, Arashara, and a dead Roman.
This is painful.
But Aratrea has a chance to burn himself pretty hard too.
I mean, let's see. He's got the one orc up top. He's got one orc down there, and then Hrognak. But honestly, at this point in the game, Hrognak can afford to take at least one hit on lava.
Right.
Glyph Boy.
Yeah, it looks like
Glyph Boy is gone.
Glyph Boy and me Berksaw Boy. So that's nice for me Berksaw at least.
Yeah, nice for me Berksaw. Unfortunately, though, I think that's a little bit, too little too late for Bodacious with that glyph guy burning up.
Yeah.
I mean, if he had burned up that first round of being on that glyph, I mean, that could have made a really big difference.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, I mean, obviously movement is always good, but Aratrea is not, depending on that movement to drive his army.
Yeah, he's already in position. He's already got orcs where he needs them. unless Bodacious gets a huge swing back in his favor, and that huge swing would be like both of his Romans surviving the whole round and being able to get 3 attacks per turn. Unless that happens, Aratrea doesn't really need his reinforcements even at this point. And if he does need to bring guys up, he probably just goes with Mirberxa to snipe whoever's left after he's done fighting.
Mirberxa, you just jump him up on that, level 3 7 hex of lava, and you just shoot at stuff and run around.
Mm-hmm. Ish. Yep, did not get the initiative swing he wanted.
Painful.
Yeah, so we'll see. I am interested to see how Aratrea tries to deal with Mogrim, because Mogrim is still probably the biggest thorn in his side at this point, just because Mogrim is so hard to kill. I guess Mogrim is at half-life, but it'll be interesting to see if he tries to just chomp Mogrim, or he could disengage from Mogrim, chomp a Roman, and then get 2 orcs adjacent to Mogrim who'll both have 4 attack on him. I think that's probably what I'd do. I think once Mogrim hits half-life, you just go for normal attack killing and don't bank on getting the chomp.
Just kind of slow down. Yeah, and obviously there's not a lot of great positions for Bodacious. One thing I do like about his positioning, though, is you'll notice that Mogrim is down on the bottom of that 7 hex with the Roman up on the opposite corner. And that's kind of, with that orc in the middle, it's keeping Grimnak from being able to engage both at the same time.
Right.
Obviously not a long-term solution. The orc could die, the orc could move, but...
Yeah. Grimnak could just disengage, or, both of those Romans, even if Grimnak doesn't disengage to chomp, both of those Romans could die because they've got 2 attacks from height coming at them.
Oh yeah, still brutal.
Yeah. So maybe you do just roll for the chomp on Mogrim. It's what, 16 or higher, right?
16 or higher for heroes.
So it's really not... That's a 25% chance that you just insta-kill the hero. Oh, nice. Going for Kelda.
Yeah, I think, honestly, it slows down the game a little bit, but not only does it heal Grimnak and ensure he's going to be in for the rest of the game, but more importantly, it denies Mogrim the glyph.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I'd kind of disregarded Kelda at this point, but yeah, if Mogrim had gotten healed up, that actually would have been pretty good for BodaciousBlood there. First to jump ship for Kelda. Yeah, no, I think it's definitely... Yeah, definitely good to take
I think that was a smart move. Because even though you're pulling out of combat right there, I think it'll save Aratrea a lot more. It'll save him a headache in the future from having to re-accomplish all the wounds he's put on Mogrim.
Yeah, and it's just one of those small things where he's already in a winning position and he doesn't need to it's one of those small things to just take that away from Bodacious, just to really make sure you're taking out all of the ways that Bodacious has to come back into the game. Because you don't want to throw a game by being oh, Kelda's not that big of a deal, and then Mogrim heals up to full, starts defending like a champ. You can't chomp him because you can't hit that 25% chance, and then you cry.
Exactly. Yeah. So definitely, I think a good move there. He's just closing all of Bodacious's doors.
Mm-hmm.
See, man.
Which
is
saying,
honestly what he's doing with orcs right now.
Yeah. Hey.
I'd be curious. I'd be curious to see if Mirberxa on Bodacious's side, if he starts running around. One potential option to catch him might even just be having Nirak go and run him down.
Mm-hmm.
The high move. Just because I wonder, how Aratrea is going to catch Mirberxa.
Yeah, I think that would be one of the harder things for him to do at this point. But... yeah, if worse comes to worse, he also has Mirberxa who can run around and shoot at me, and they can have a Mirberxa shootout. And where Bodacious's Mirberxa already has 2 wounds, definitely odds in the favor of Aratrea's.
Oh, definitely. Aratrea has options here. He's not really, stuck at all.
Turn 1 was on the Romans. Bodacious really banking on that initiative roll, which I think at this point I think it's worth it to try to bank on winning initiative to get a turn with the Romans, because you're already in a bad position, so you just you need to find things to go right for you. Unfortunately, It didn't go right at this point, but And like you just need to keep trying to get those swings that you need. So
thinking about the orcs, thinking about the best course of action. I mean, because Arashara and Miberksa are still up on that perch up there. They've got some pretty good height, at least from the swamp water.
Mm-hmm.
And then got those two molten lava hexes right there that give them quite a bit of safety up there, actually.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I mean, they're slowly getting cooked to death, but very defensible.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how Bodacious plays that out, because he could try to hold that area a little bit. And he does need to run with Miberksa probably soon, because, you know, 1 life left on lava. That's where you start to worry about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, rolls a 1 on the d20 for Chomp. But
I think it's good. We'll see what Aratrea does with his orcs. But it seems as though, oh, look at that. Going for Miberksa, going for the kill there.
Yeah.
Aside from that one orc side, it looks like he is still putting some emphasis and focus on Mogrim, who I think is still potentially the biggest threat.
Yeah, and I think he's just, because he can only get 2 even ground attacks on Mogrim. Oh, and completely blinks that first one. But yeah, so I think it's wise to kind of move out, get a kill on Miberksa, probably, because you're just taking away Bodacious' options. So there's 1 skull. We'll see if Bodacious keeps his shields or does not keep his shields.
Oh,
man. Oh. Yep, no breaks for Bodacious. Man, yeah, that's that really hurts. Luckily, you did have the order marker on Mogrim. It's gonna go for that Grimneck hit, and a mighty 3 skulls. Okay. Progress.
It is progress. This is true. I think also just a tough part of this now is, at least with the order marker productivity, Aratrea with a bonding army is getting a hero turn along with his squad turn.
Mm-hmm.
On the part of Bodacious now, I mean, he's just struggling to keep up in regards to figure activation, because he's only activating, 1 hero a turn now.
Yeah.
It's just gonna get just run out with just the number of attacks and the number of figures that Aratrea is able to activate and use.
Yeah. And I mean, like, Bodacious' heroes are too spread out now for Commander Strike to even be a very consistent force as well. And he's got to worry about, well, he maybe needs to worry about Chomp every turn. Aratrea just took a turn to put Hrognak closer to those reserve orcs to boost them out faster, which I think at this point is a little redundant, but it's the end of the round. I guess you don't want to go all in on Arashara, so you might as well move up your rear orcs.
It's true. I mean, I don't think it's a bad move,
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to remember that Aratrea has, 5 orcs sitting right there with Grimneck and Nirak.
Right.
So he's probably not going to run out of firepower regardless, especially with Arashara only having 3 defense. But then again, she can be kind of slippery. So
yeah, it's true. And yeah, I think it's a good idea just in that, because he could have moved those 2 orcs up onto lava next to Arashara to try to put enough wounds on her to like either kill her or let the lava kill her. But there's always that potential that you don't get those hits, and then your orcs die to lava damage, and then you've just given Bodacious a way back into the game. So I think, like, especially when you're ahead, it never hurts to play safe, or at least it rarely hurts to play safe, because you're just really making sure that you pull home that win.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, crazy things can happen. Yeah.
Heroscape.
It's Heroscape. That's how it works.
You can always...
Or craziness.
Yeah, you can always lose a Deathwalker to a 1 skull attack, even when you have height and jungle.
This is true. However, with the Deathwalker, you only ever roll blank when it's 1 skull.
Oh yeah.
It's never 2 skulls, never 3 skulls, never 4 skulls. It's always the 1 skull.
Yeah, I'm always happy when I've got a Deathwalker. I'm like, yeah, roll as many skulls as you can. The more skulls, the better.
More skulls, the better for me. Exactly.
All right, so we've got hot rocks now. Looks like Arashara's taking a wound for Bodacious. Okay. Aratrea has a chance to get hurt by these rocks. Okay, yeah, he loses 2 orcs. So it's a good thing that he started bringing up reserves.
All right, I apologize for judging Aratrea on his move there. Well done, well played, master Heroscape player.
Yeah, no, I think that's just still playing into the theme of map control that we've been talking about pretty much the whole time, and just keeping your figures in good positions and keeping them all relevant, and being ready to be flexible.
Well, it's true. I mean, I think that's an impressive part about how Aratrea has played, because he had a pretty big army. I mean, he had a lot of squads. He had, 4 different heroes. And at this point, the only figure which he has not utilized has been Miberxa.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, he's even used Hrognak and his move ability. Nirak's defense came in pretty clutch there in the center of the map. I mean, Grimnak used very well. And even though he hasn't used Miberxa, I think just the threat menace of, Bodacious knowing that Miberxa is there and Miberxa has range, I think just his presence on the field also plays in.
I know. Yeah, that's like... I'm sure Bodacious... He keeps getting these little glimmers of hope where he's like, okay, I've killed a couple of orcs. Or like, that lava killed a couple of orcs. So now I just need to, like, if I can get through Grimnik, like, if I can just get that hit, then, well, he still has more orcs and Miberxa and Hrognak.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like you just look across the field and...
Well, and Arashara, I mean, 3 hits on her now.
Yeah, so she's only got 2 life left.
She could potentially be killed by a single orc attack.
Mm-hmm. Which, okay, looks like he's developing more instead of attacking Arashara. Which is fine, I think, at this point. You're trying to maximize attacks on Mogrim because that's where the order markers are.
It's where the order markers are. One interesting thing to point out is up at the top of the map, you'll notice that Aratrea has reclaimed the move glyph, which is just giving him total flexibility on the map again.
Yeah, I think that, he's already got that good development-based playstyle already, and then the movement glyph has just been helping him with that so much. I think that being able to hold that glyph for so much of the game has really helped his strategy as a whole and just his playstyle, because it's helped him to keep his orcs coming up, keep spamming them at the Romans, getting hits, killing Mogrim, all that good stuff.
Definitely. And, seeing how Bodacious's army definitely was built to pot up, and it was potted, I don't think that the move glyph was 100% essential to Aratrea's strategy. It just helped speed things up, and it helped things happen a little bit quicker and more easily, especially with regards to Grimnak being able to get into positions.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think it's just another one of those small things that gave Aratrea the edge in this game.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's just been a lot of those small things, like his positioning, his development, his holding that movement glyph, bringing up reinforcements, taking Kelda, all of those small things that have just been consistently pulling away options from Bodacious and giving Aratrea the edge that he needs to do as well in this game as he has.
Definitely. Also, points to Bodacious for a good order marker placement right there. I mean, Mogrim went down, and once he went down, he had the order marker in the correct spot with Arashara. So
yeah, unfortunately, that is the only order marker on Arashara, so he will be losing the rest of the round as well. But yeah, at least he gets a turn. She's 200 points. She's got the power. She's a tad overcast, and just going straight for Narek. Nice. Oh man.
Man, can't get a break.
Yeah. That is a pretty good position on the whole, in that that's a little bit harder for Aratrea to attack. But no, never mind. Narek can run up onto the high ground, level 4. Yeah, but it's just gonna concede.
All right.
Throwing her into the lava.
Burn.
Nice. Ain't no one taking me out but me. But yeah, that was a good game.
Yeah, well played on all sides. I think just Aratrea just was a master of board control, board positioning, and I think just a key moment was that the drive with Grimnak into the center, and then winning initiative after that. That just drove the nail into the casket. Yeah,
that was really and I think it was a good strategy, because that just about by itself really just won the game for him. I mean, there was a lot more to the game, of course, because, that was just killing Raylan and some Romans, but that was, enough to, give Aratrea the lead that he needed for the rest of the game, and he, never let go of that lead. But also, if that had backfired, he wasn't in that bad of a position where he was, totally screwed over by the initiative not going his way the next round. So, yeah, I think that was a really good series of events for him.
Oh yeah, definitely. So that just worked out very nicely, and then coupled with the extreme bad luck of Bodacious, at least with dice-wise.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously some of that can be attributed to Aratrea just doing a great job with positioning, but also, I mean, Bodacious had some pretty rough luck there all around. He lost some key initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
The defense dice, I mean, his army was meant to survive and have good survivability through defense, and the defense was just not there to support him when he needed it.
Yeah. I will note that, like, a lot of those blanks that he had, I mean, like, he had a lot of them, but a lot of them were because Aratrea was also, like, looking for the attacks against either 2 or 3 defense Romans and really capitalizing on that. So, yeah. So there's, like, that luck factor that really just, like, did not allow Bodacious even a chance. But even with that, I mean, like we've been saying.
Even with that, Aratrea just did a great job controlling the map and being in the right position when he needed to.
Yeah, really, really. I mean, I think that shows you both elements there. How there is that luck factor, but also, like, even if it gone a little bit more Bodacious's way, I think we still would have seen maybe a little bit closer of an outcome, but still the same thing with the way Aratrea was able to play. I do think it was also an uphill fight with the matchup for BodaciousBlood, with Hrognak changing the game completely against Romans. But, I mean, yeah, I do think we saw good play on both sides. I don't want to rag on Bodacious too much because I think he played really well, all things considered, with his matchup and with basically what the dice gods were giving him. I think he was doing a good job adapting and everything. Good game. Good solid game.
Oh, yeah, with the immediate strategy of placement of figures and do this and do that, like the actual play mechanics of the game, BodaciousBlood did a great job. I mean, he didn't just throw away Romans. I mean, he definitely made a couple gutsy moves, especially, you know, when he threw that Roman out in front through that shifting sands ability. But I don't feel like he was really making any strategic errors. I felt like they both played good games. Aratrea just really dominated map control, and with that little bit of luck with the aggressive power move on Hrognak, it just kind of fell his way, and once things started falling, it just gained momentum.
Yeah, definitely agree there. Thank you so much, Mr. Scaperedude, for joining me today.
Yeah, this was a blast. Seriously, thank you for letting me jump on, join you, to be a part of the epic 10 points under community. This is an awesome channel, doing great stuff here.
Anytime, man. You are welcome back anytime. Had a great time casting with you. Hopefully our viewers had a great time as well. Speaking of, do you have any messages you want to sign off with? Any words of wisdom to share with our viewers?
Words of wisdom from Scaperedude. Play on.
Play on.
Just love the game. I mean, I love that we have Heroscape. It is just, honestly, in my opinion, one of my all-time favorite games, if not the best game. Enjoy it. Love it. And those are your words of wisdom, straight from the mouth of Scaperedude.
Those are great words of wisdom. Anything that's encouraging Heroscape, I consider to be words of wisdom. So that's very good. Thank you, all of you who are watching this, for enjoying this game with us. Hopefully you found it as exciting and cool as we did. And this will be us, 10 Points Under, signing off. Have a great time. Have a great day. Enjoy the glorious world. And we'll see you all in the next video. Kind of, more or less. Anyway, signing off. So I just do a little bit of vocal warm-up. Me. Okay.
Woo!
Hello, folks, and welcome to 10 Points Under, where you might survive 8 skulls from Jotun, but that means nothing when the lava... Wait, did I do that right? I didn't quite phrase that correctly. Hang on. Take 2. How did we phrase that?
Welcome to 10 Points Under, folks, where you may survive 8 skulls from Jotun, but that means nothing when the lava damage rolls around. Or,
there you go.
Know,
there
like
you
that.
go. Hello, folks, and welcome to 10 Points Under, where you may survive 8 skulls from Jotun, but you gotta watch out for that lava damage. Wait, oh my gosh, why can't I... It's like every time I get to that lava damage part. Hey, you do it.
That means nothing. All right.